All right, so welcome everyone joining us. I'm Liam Halliwell. I'm one of the senior SAP specialist consultants at Blue Wave Select. For those who haven't heard of us, we are the highest rated SAP recruitment agency in the country and co-creators of SAP Network Plus. So we're one of the only agencies to be partnered with SAP and with a Trustpilot rating of 99%. So really happy and excited to be joined by Kirit Mistry today. Kirit's an enterprise architect and integration specialist with over 30 years of experience, with vast amounts of experience in SAP, but not limited to SAP. Of course, through Kirit's many years of experience, he's partnered with businesses to help them have success specifically in the integration and data space, respectively, at an enterprise level. So we're going to go through 5 key points to integration success, why you shouldn't forget about it when it comes to S4. I know Kirit will be very passionate about that. The chat's open, so feel free to drop your questions. We're going to be coming back to you directly with answers to those questions, myself and Kirit working alongside each other to answer those. It'll be about 30 minutes. Me and Kirit will try our best. And then at the end, we'll reveal a free gift, something else we're going to be doing as part of these webinars. So welcome, Kirit.
Thank you. Thanks, Liam. Yeah, thanks for this opportunity as well. I think it's really special. I hope this is something that everyone finds useful. And yeah, let's see if there's an appetite for more of these.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess let's get underway then. So integration, I guess it would be good to start. What's it all about? What is it? And why is it so important? I guess why are we here today? Sharing this content with these lovely people.
What integration and why is it important? Well, these days, as you know, businesses are successful when they make the right decisions at the right time, right? So, and that's quite critical. I mean, I'm a Formula One fan, as you know, Liam. So, I don't know if you guys watched the F1 this weekend, but you can always hear the guys talking to the drivers, and they're making lots of decisions on what to do next, when to pick the car. What's the weather doing? There's a lot of data flying around, and they're using that data to then make a call on when to do things. Obviously, they don't get it right all the time, and some things are not just at the spur of the moment. They need to make decisions on a longer term strategy. So I'm a huge McLaren advocate. So with Lando, was it the right decision to let Oscar go past him on that first maiden win for him? Only time will tell by the end of the season, but it's all about the data. And integrate. Why is it important? Well, in the early days, most businesses had 5 or 10 applications. All the data that they used to make decisions were in those 5 or 10 systems. But over time, systems have evolved. There are more specialist systems for various things like payroll, customer relationship, CRM, SRMs, ERPs, like S4HANA, etc. And all the data that the business needs to make decisions is spread across this vast environment, in different systems. In order to make the right decision, you need to get the right data in the right place. So, and that's where really integration comes in. It's about the layer that moves the data between the systems, or indeed these days more makes the data available. So it's not about moving the data, but getting access to it so that you can make the right decision at the right time. And the more right decisions you make, obviously the business is more successful. Integration, I say, is sometimes called the invisible layer. only because as a business user, you don't directly interact with the integration layer. You know, it's the applications that you're interacting with. But people tend to forget it's there until it goes wrong. Because when you haven't got the right data in the right place at the right time, that's when people go, why wasn't it there?
Yeah.
You know,
I think there's a lot of assumptions been made in the market at the moment that, especially SAP, have these fantastic cloud products that seem to seamlessly connect, but it's not all that easy, is it?
no, and a lot of enterprises these days, they're not, yes, they'll have SAP in the enterprise, but there's quite a lot of non-SAP systems as well. And a lot of these are no longer based on premise in your own data centers. You know, there's a lot of SaaS applications. So people are, you know, companies are more interested in having tenancies on different applications, just like S4HANA. So, you know,
Yeah.
you don't actually need hardware in an enterprise to, you know, use the system. It's actually hosted somewhere else for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, and that adds its own challenges, I guess, because in the past, a lot of your applications were in the same data center or connected via private networks if you had multiple data centers. So security was kind of, if you think of your enterprise as a house, as long as your house is secured, no one's getting to your systems. But these days, as the applications are hosted in different data centers, you know, and some of them are not just your personal systems, that you're a tenant on a multi-tenancy environment. So security starts becoming a real big concern. You know, you don't really want to see the director of Shell's pay details, right? And whether he got a £9 million bonus. You know, that kind of thing is not something you want out in the open.
Yeah.
So you really do need to start thinking about making sure any data that's moved between these systems is secured. So
Yeah.
there's many ways of doing that, but you know, HTTPS has been the main protocol. And for sensitive data like your pay details, etc., you want to think about encrypting it. So unless you've got the right keys, you can't actually see the data, and it's not visible to you.
Yeah. Well, we've had a lot of clients, I think, who've, you know, payroll data is a great example. That is one where there's a lot of nerves moving that to the cloud. Also, like, for example, when it comes to recipe and development, secrets of businesses that literally define them and keep them as a market leader. So security is a really important point. So I guess that is going to be a key first point when it comes to linking it specifically to when companies embark on an S4HANA implementation. There's obviously tons and tons of perks that they can get from this that SAP are preaching about, but there's obviously this to be really cautious about and really make sure that they have, you know, someone like yourself to really advise them on, you know, what could potentially go wrong if it's not properly considered when, as you say, they move it from a private network and it's moving into potentially public cloud.
Yeah, so I think these points are important, not just for any S4HANA implementation, it's for any transformation program, to be honest, because, you know, security is definitely a massive concern. And when you are implementing an S4HANA implementation, you're usually going to be replacing an existing SAP platform. And in the old days, that platform would have probably been hosted on your premises.
Yeah.
And like I said, now that you've got connections to other data centers, you know, that security is important. The other thing is, you know, when you're implementing this, your existing SAP implementation or the one you're replacing, has probably been integrated to a lot of other applications, because you're sharing data with them. For example, if it's an ERP, you've got your CRM, so you're getting all your customer data, perhaps in a different system like Salesforce, for example, and you need to be able to connect back to those systems. Now, with the older sorts of SAP implementations, a lot of those interfaces were probably file-based, because they've been around for a while. So, you know, files was great, and it's periodic updates. Are you getting the data in the right place at the right time? In a lot of cases, it's probably okay. You know, if you're your invoicing platform, for example, you may be only sending invoices out at the end of the month. Your payroll system, you're only paying people at the end of the month. So as long as you get the data there before the payroll runs or before you create invoices, it's fine. You know, and if that's a batch, that can continue being a batch. But things like, let's say you want to pay a person, but you don't know how many hours they've worked. You know, you might want that to be more real time. And if someone's actually booked time off, you want to know when they've had time off at the right time. You know, not on payroll date, but when they actually took the time off, if you like. And if you're trying to schedule a workforce, it's better you know that that person's not available, so you don't roster them into a role that they're supposed to be doing. So, you know, you need to kind of think about whether you should change your protocol. So like you said, Liam, there's a lot of tools available from SAP, and there are others for integrating. You know, it's like SAP CPI, BTP is available, MuleSoft, all of these different platforms. Making the right decision about the right platform is quite important. You know, have you got the right platform? I mean, if you've got a lot of SAP, obviously the SAP platforms are good, but nothing is going to be straight out of the box, because don't forget, once you've moved to S4HANA, some of the actual data models changed. It won't be the same as what you had originally. And that's another important point. Before we embark on these sort of enterprise transformation programs, understanding your data. So, you know, having a conceptual model, a logical data model, perhaps not associated with a physical model for the system you're representing, if you like. Having a clearer understanding of what is your data, what does that look like, and how does it fulfill your business requirements, and then mapping that to the physical. So, you know, I see a mistake in a lot of enterprises where the logical data model is actually based on a physical model of an application that they're using. And that influences, it actually constrains you a little bit, because you know, you're so tied into how a system works rather than the actual data. So, and that's where you'll see, especially in the old days, a lot of customization going on, because you know, the physical model that's come out of the box doesn't support everything. And if you haven't thought about what is it that you really need, you start adding and changing the standard model, and you find it doesn't quite match.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, because there's so much discussion in the market at the moment between companies going greenfield. Obviously, that's the way SAP want companies to do, but it's the most expensive. And then there's the brownfield piece, which is the you know, the lift and shift, which is, you know, a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it kind of can go to the issues that you're talking about, that heavily customized physical models that ultimately will mean that you're not getting the most out of your data. You're limited to heavily customized systems that could be put in a couple of decades ago. So ultimately, like you say, I think this is where we'll come on to this later, but it's going to be really important to talk about the business side of integration. You know, obviously, Kieran, you're technical and business focused, and that's obviously part of your business as an entrepreneur. But that's going to be key when it comes to business is assessing integration is having people who can talk to the business and understand, well, what's customized at the moment, how is your business processes connecting together, so we can set those technical integrations up properly. So yeah, important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're talking about data, you can see for integration, there's a huge overlap with data management. And I think you've got another webinar with Floyd in a week's time or so. It'd be good if people join that as well. I think that'll give you a bigger overall picture, overarching picture. And we've talked a little bit about getting the S4HANA implementation done. One of the challenges you're going to have is actually in a brownfield situation, data migration. So, you're going to need to take the data out of your existing application and move that into the new application, if you like. And that's where that data modeling piece is quite important. And one thing I've seen some customers do is they start boiling the ocean. You don't need to create an entire model that represents your entire business in one go. I think you can start by thinking about the bigger picture. So maybe having a view of a conceptual model.
Yeah.
And then populating your logical model as and when you need it. And the other mistake some people make is they do that piece of work and then it's well documented and everything, tick the box, close it. Expect it to change. That model is not going to be stationary. You need to be able to maintain that and keep that moving forwards. And that's the main point, right? Is don't try and build it up front because it will change. And maintain it. As long as you maintain those data models, you'll have a very good idea of what it looks like, and that will help with your decision making. Once you've implemented the system, having those data models helps with the integration because you know what the data looks like and how you can standardize it. I think, and that's one of the things I've tried to do more in my sort of engagements is not think about it as just for this project or program. Think of it as an enterprise asset. So where else could you leverage this data, and how can you make that available to other things? And if we're using more API enabled architecture, it's more about looking up using services which are reusable. And that then makes that data available to a lot of other things as well. Of course, bear in mind the security. You don't want everything to be available to everyone. So, by default, you should always employ a principle of security by default, i.e. you only expose what's required, not everything. And then the other big challenge I've seen is quite often the amount of effort of creating all the interfaces is underestimated. Typically, if you're replacing an ERP application, it could be 60 to 80 interfaces to other downstream, upstream systems. And, a lot of those may have been built up over time, maybe using the same kind of data across, to various systems. This is an opportunity to start rationalizing that, so if you've got the right services based on the data models, you can reduce the number of actual point-to-point interfaces and have more data aligned interfaces. I think that then helps you, with one, understanding what the data is, how it looks like. It also helps you abstract it away from the systems. So in the future, if you want to change your systems again, that abstraction means you're not going to have to do this whole exercise from scratch again. And hopefully there's less change required from the other systems. So those are kind of the 4 or 5 main points, I think, when you're considering S4HANA implementation, especially around data and integration.
Yeah, I think the main draws there are it's going to be easy in the future when it comes to the next technology. When you know what your data models look like, it's going to be a lot easier in the future. And the next thing, obviously subject to security access, but members of the business can access their relative data in real time, and that can of course help quicker decision making, and then that can help businesses be more effective in the market, no matter what the industry. So, of course, we'll have a mix of audience here today. We'll have people who are really, really interested in the integration and technical side, but it's important we obviously mentioned that, you know, a lot of this is a big investment for businesses, and the actual return of investment is going to be that you'll have real-time analytics that's better than the competition ultimately, and it's why, you know, stakeholders would be particularly interested in doing everything properly. And I know that our next point, Kurt, links to the buzzword of the year so far. How companies, if they don't follow this, they're not going to be able to use AI moving forward, which is going to, you know, mean that they basically get left behind. So,
yeah, I'd definitely say, Liam, in the sort of last sort of 5-6 months, I've had a lot of people approach me, and the buzzword is definitely AI. You know, you've seen it in the adverts for the phones as well for Google. You know, here's Gemini. Welcome to Gemini. You can find your shoes and things online just by circling a picture. There's so many things that are, you know, being shown, and yes, AI is going to be useful to the business. Perhaps one day it might even replace me. Who knows? But the thing about all of this is AI, any decision making, it will just be another consumer, right? And it needs the data. It needs the data to make the right decisions again, right? And if we've built these interfaces in the right way, so like we said, look up services, the AI can actually consume that service as well, and making that available means that your AI will be more productive because it's got access to the right information again to make the right decisions. And you know, there's a lot of different types of AI technology that we can talk about. You know, there's the generative AI, you know, creating things out of lots of data, create me a poem kind of thing. Yeah. There's a lot of data analysis type things, you know, where you want to access to large volumes of data and see if you can ascertain if there's certain patterns. You know, F1 does that in real time. You've probably heard them talking about your tire temperatures, manage your tires, slow down. That's all real time, and it's people sort of making the decisions on top of that data, but it could be an AI. Yes. And there's like document intelligence type things as well. So, you know, a lot of historical data may be stored in documents, and being able to actually scan those and glean, you know, real data out of unstructured data into structured data, that could be quite an opportunity. But there's lots of these tools available. All of them need access to the data, and that's where, again, integration can play a part. Now, some applications have out-of-the-box interfaces as well, you know, for the AI. But again, when you're configuring it, the main thing you need to be careful of is the security aspects. You know, if it's sensitive data, do you really want that available via service to everyone? You know, and that could cause problems later on. So those are the sort of main things. And you know, you need to understand the non-functionals as well. So, you know, we talk about making everything a service and everything real time. But like I said quite early on, when you're invoicing, that doesn't really need to be real time. If you're only invoicing once a month, what benefit do you drive? So there's a lot of pragmatism required, you know, in terms of some things work the way they work. You don't have to change everything, and that's where I think you need some guidance, and that's where I think I come in, if you like, as an integration specialist.
Well, I think that brings us nicely onto the last point. I see, you know, as Lisa mentions, we'll come back to a lot of the direct questions, but noticing, not just on the webinar today, but throughout the market, cost is always going to be a concern. It's an investment bringing people like yourself in, Kirit. You quite often will have teams of people and then you'll work closely with further resource like consultancy, support, etc. So I think one thing when businesses are quite nervous to take these approaches, which is, very much ripping up the carpet, ripping up the floors, and really having a look under the bonnet. It's important to have people like you in from the very start when the business analysis and the business process mapping begins, not just bringing you in when it comes to the build because it's a technical side of things. It's having you in so you understand from the word go.
Yeah, you're right, Liam. I think in the old days, like I said, 30 years ago, maybe, it used to be a very technical role. I just want this data to come from this system to another one. Just do it, right? Yeah. And we can carry on doing that. But I think what I've learned over the many years so far is I've needed to evolve myself. and that is, yes, it's great to have a deep technical understanding of the different types of tools and how to use them. And because there are so many different tools, there needs to be a little bit of experience added in to make sure you're using the right tool for the right job. So that's something that an enterprise architect like myself would definitely be helping you with. It's also being aware of the data strategy. So I've talked about the overlap, if you like, with data, because most data strategies talk about data at rest. How is the data stored in systems? What's the data quality? Is it good? Is it bad? And integration is data in motion, making it available, moving it around. So there's a huge overlap between the two.
Yeah.
So as an integration specialist, you not just need to know the technical abilities on how you move data, you need to have a good understanding of data management and data architecture as well. And the last point is really working on a lot of bigger enterprises. I've seen you start developing a real understanding of how the business works, because typically if it's a mature integrated environment, the data is moving between the systems, and there's value in trying to monitor what's going through. So as an example, I used to work for an investment bank years ago, and the integration layer there was the key component. We could actually monitor from when an actual order had been placed to when it had been settled, from how the data had moved between all the applications. So we could monitor and provide a business activity monitor. You could actually tell from the integration layer where a trade was in the process, which was quite neat. But that's one of the other things that you need to think about when you're doing these building these interfaces, is building in the KPIs, the indicators. What parameters do you want to monitor and manage, so you can get some more insight into what's going on as well. And the other piece I've learned is, we have to be project managers, because it's not just about being visionaries and spouting lots of words about what is integration, but actually delivering it. So we need to be good project managers, and it's putting it all together really, and making businesses understand how they get the most out of their data. So I think that's really the important part, is we have to be great communicators as well. So all of that together is what really helps us give some advice and hopefully make the business work better. So that's kind of what I think. And Liam, over to you.
Yeah, no, I think that's like a perfect point to end on. I think you've just really articulated well how important it is for you to be with the business and teaching them really how to work with their data. So brilliant. Well, I think we're about out of time. I can't believe we did it.
Yeah.
But I hope everyone's really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for joining us. There'll be a recording of the webinar if you want to rewatch or you want to share. with anybody in your network, colleagues, friends that may find it useful. I'd like to think you've come away from today's session wanting to pick Kirit's brain more. So as a free gift, we'd like to give away free advisory sessions. So we'd like to give 3 away. So if you want to pop in the chat, if you'd be interested in one of those with Kirit, we're going to give 3 away. We're going to pick some people at random and book in those sessions to help you with your S4HANA implementations. Yeah, as I mentioned, the record will be available, and yeah, any questions as well, me and Kirit will work together to come back to you ASAP with some answers.
Great. Thank you, Liam.
No, thank you, mate. That's awesome. Right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you soon.